women's rights had come a long way since 1972. Women could vote, and they were part of the workforce, but they were still discriminated against in education programs and activities that were receiving federal financing assistance. Bernice Sandler, Patsy Mink, and Edith Green, the founding mothers of Title IX, did not think this was fair. Patsy Mink played basketball, but she was never allowed to play full court because she was a woman. Bernice Sandler once did not get a job she applied for because she came on too strong for a woman. Edith Green was interested in becoming a lawyer or engineer, but she was persuaded into a more conventional career for a woman. The struggles of these women had drove them to create Title IX. These women explored ideas that would lead to women encountering new things such as high school and college sports.
Women have been fighting for equal rights for centuries. Abigail Adams was an early crusader for women's rights. She wrote to her husband John, "Remember the ladies. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husband." Perhaps the biggest win was gaining the right to vote on August 8, 1920. Since the 1800s, women had been organizing, petitioning, and picketing to win the right to vote, but it took them decades to accomplish their purpose. During World War II, while men were at war, Rosie the Riveter encouraged women to take over the men's jobs. Rosie the Riveter was a fictional character that urged women to work while the men were at war.
There have been two waves of feminism. The first wave of feminism took place in the late 19th century to the early 20th century. It focused mainly on opening up opportunities for women and suffrage. This wave formally began at the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848. 300 men and women gathered there to rally the cause of equality for women. Important women there were Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. Their cause became something bigger when Lucy Stone organized the National Women's Rights Convention, and soon the now famous Susan B. Anthony joined the cause.
Second wave feminism started in the 60s and continued into the 90s. This wave began with protests against the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City in 1968 and 1969. Feminists protested what they held to be a degrading cattle parade. A radical New York group called the Red Stockings staged a counter pageant in which they crowned a sheep as Miss America and threw oppressive feminine artifacts such as bras, girdles, high heels, makeup, and false eyelashes into a trash can. The second wave of feminism focused most of its energy on passing the Equal Rights Amendment, or the ERA. The ERA affirms the equal application of the Constitution to all people regardless of their sex. The ERA was ratified by 35 states before its final deadline of June 30th, 1982. It was only 3 states short of the 38-state requirement.
Title IX was created to give women a more equal opportunity to participate in things that men could do. It is the landmark law that bans sex discrimination in schools. It states, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal finance assistance." Title IX passed on June 23, 1972 with little controversy as part of the Education Amendment of 1972. It was signed into law by Richard Nixon on July 1, 1972.
Shortly after Title IX passed, however, the National Collegiate Athletic Association and high school administrators complained that boys' sports would suffer if girls' sports had to be funded equally. Rules for implementing the law were not released until 2 years later, and those regulations did not go into effect until July 1975. Even then, the Office of Civil Rights did not enforce the law. Few complaints were looked into and resolved. The official name of Title IX is the Patsy Mink Equal Opportunity in Education Act. It is named after Patsy Mink because she wrote the official legislation.
Absolutely. At the time, I think we only had basketball, maybe track. And then by the time I had graduated, we had added, and I graduated in 1978, we added volleyball and softball, which was a totally new programs for us.
Patsy Mink played basketball for Maui High School, but she was never allowed to play full court because her school believed that it would be too hard for girls. She attended the University of Hawaii. After her years there, she applied to medical school, but received 12 rejections because of what she believed to be gender discrimination. She became a lawyer, but she was denied a job at a law firm because she was a married woman. she decided to run for Congress. She was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1965. She served until 1977. She was re-elected in 1990 and served until 2002. During her time as a congresswoman, she focused mainly on childcare, the environment, and education.
Growing up, Bernice Sandler had a desire to do things that were not considered acceptable for girls. In school, she always wanted to change the inkwell, operate the slide projector, and be a crossing guard. Her teachers would not allow her to do these things, and so, from an early age, she was aware of the discriminations and inequalities women suffered. From 1968 to 1969, Sandler was a visiting lecturer at the University of Maryland. She applied for a tenure track position, which she was qualified for, and she was rejected because she came on too strong for a woman.
As a U.S. Senator, Edith Green's nickname was Miss Education. She helped Patsy Mink write and introduce Title IX to the U.S. Congress. She had a strong drive for women's rights. She experienced discrimination from a young age when she wanted to be a lawyer or an engineer, but she was persuaded into a more conventional career for a woman, and she became a teacher. Another important person in the passing of Title IX was Birch Bayh. He was a U.S. Senator who is considered the father of Title IX because of his role in crafting the original legislation and seeing through its passage in the Senate.
Yes, I did. In fact, it was really it was irritating at the time, but really kind of cool that so many girls went out for softball. And there was a lot of us that didn't make it or, kind of did other things. But even with volleyball, too, it was just really fun to see so many people come out.
Title IX had strong impacts on women. More women started going to college and playing sports. Some important events have become significant to Title IX's cause, like the March 3, 1976 protests at Yale University. The women's rowing team was angry that they didn't have enough showers. They marched up to the office of the women's athletic director and stripped down, revealing Title IX written on their bare chests and backs. After this protest, Yale added 4 showers for women to use. Another important person was Brandi Chastain. She was on the 1999 Women's World Cup team. After making the final penalty shot that cemented America's victory over China, she ripped her shirt off. This iconic picture of her changed how women's sports were perceived.
Yes, actually, I just had somebody contact me about an issue, and so I will be looking into it because I really believe that, yes, sometimes boys' sports gets precedence, but it's very important for young women to be able to participate in a sports team as well.
Women had made a lot of progress by 1972, such as winning the right to vote and joining the workforce. They were still discriminated against in education programs and activities, receiving federal finance assistance.
Patsy Mink, Bernice Sandler, and Edith Green had changed this. They explored ideas and eventually created Title IX. Each of these women had experienced discrimination and they didn't want other girls and women to have to deal with it. Title IX led women to encounter new things like high school and college sports. The rate of women going to college also rose after Title IX passed. Women have issues with equality, but Title IX was a big step in the right direction.
What are some of the biggest issues you see women facing today?
Some of the big issues that I see women facing today are around wage disparities. The numbers are pretty clear that women don't make the same amount sometimes, especially at the lower jobs and the lowest paying jobs. And single women are more oftentimes going to find themselves in a situation of poverty than single men. And that's